There's the red light.
It's on. How's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. With Inception, the cast in this is incredible, and I didn't know how vital your character was to just everything in the movie. And just finally seeing that was just fantastic. And now that I know and have seen all that you do in it, I just want to ask you all about that. I mean, I would love to just start at just hearing about doing your own stunt work. And I guess we were talking to Tom earlier, and he was saying you were doing
Tom
3
Struthers?
weeks. No, Hardy.
Oh, Tom Hardy. Yeah, okay.
You were doing 3 weeks of wire work and just everything. So I'm just first, I guess, why did you want to do your own stunt work going into this?
Oh, because it's fun as hell.
Well, I know, but
and also because I think that it sort of gets at the heart of what's so good about Mr. Nolan's action sequences is they're not just pure spectacle. They always serve the story. And I wanted to, have the character be doing these things, not just some dude in the same clothes. And there is one shot, by the way. I feel like it's necessary to say there's one it's about a little less than a second in the movie that Andy, my stunt double, is in. But everything else is me, and I just loved that they let me do it. And it was hard and painful at times, but so much fun. And yeah, I mean that's sort of what the whole character was leading up to. What I crafted him around, played all the other scenes so that I could set it up so you'd sort of believe that this guy could do that, but it would also sort of surprise you. And yeah, thanks.
Yeah. I don't even know how half of it was done. I mean, the whole fight in the hall, was it all just? Well, I guess I heard there was a hallway set built on a gimbal, and then you were wired into that to do sequences, sort of like zero G's.
So there's a variety of techniques that
Right.
they use to create this sequence where gravity goes all dreamy. None of those techniques, by the way, are digital. There's no green screen.
Wow.
None of that fakery. But not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the techniques was sort of standard wires. Although, so they had that. Then they built one version of the set where they turned the corridor on its side and built it as sort of like this 10-story, tower almost, and then hung the wires down it and shot from there. And then there was another version of the set that spun.
Wow.
It was on this enormous machine that they built. Chris Corball and his team, who's the guy that built the fucking Batmobile, built this enormous. I mean, it's the size of a city block or two.
Yeah.
Rotating corridor, and so that doesn't have wires in it.
Yeah.
That's just the thing's rotating, the floor's spinning out from under your feet. You have to jump from the floor to the wall that's about to be the floor, and do a fight sequence at the same time. That one was the most fun.
Yeah.
That was the most fun technique because you're not relying on anybody else. Like on wires, it's a whole team effort. I'm in there and I can control my body, but as far as where the wires are going to go, that's like a team of 2 guys on the x-axis, 2 guys on the y-axis, and the captain on the walkie-talkie, and Chris Nolan, and everybody else. Whereas in the spinning room, it's just on me. So it's always fun to have.
Yeah. What was your first impression reading the script? I mean, there's been a lot of talk, having seen it now, that just about how while it's a complex film in terms of the levels and the elements, it's actually very straightforward to understand. More so because of Chris just putting together a fantastic film. And I have to imagine reading that script from the start without having Nolan's full vision, there, it must have been kind of complicated. Was that the impression you got?
Well, reading a script is certainly different than watching a movie.
Yeah,
because
of course.
It's a visual medium, and a script is just a literal approximation of a movie, which is a visual thing. So yeah, I think reading the script, it really did. It took some thought and effort to follow everything and keep track of everything and go back and like, okay, this is connected to that, to that.
Mhm.
But when you watch it, it's all just very clear and visceral because you don't have to remember that this matches to that. It just looks the same.
Yeah.
So it just is.
Mhm. It seems like it was a dream come true to you to work with Chris Nolan.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I love him, and I wish we could speak with him, but he doesn't talk to online, so I have to ask you what it was like to work with him, and just compared to the other directors you've worked with. I mean, how is he different? I guess.
I mean, he's certainly just a unique voice, and yeah, I've admired his work since Memento, and you know, he's the genuine article, man. He's a real artist, and it's rare because the majority of movies that get made on this scale, you know, that have this kind of budget and have such high production value, usually get made from the point of view of you know, the business, the commerce, the marketing research and all that. That's not how he makes movies. And it's just fucking awesome that, you know, he made The Dark Knight. It was that successful that he just got to do what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And Inception is something he's been working on for 10 years.
Yeah.
And he got to do it exactly how he wanted to do it. It doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. How much, if at all, did your character develop once you got attached? Was there any, you know, like what were the talks you had with Chris, and you know, what kind of elements did you bring in from yourself to the character?
I don't know if I brought much in from myself. I'm not too similar to that character. He's like extremely detail oriented, logistics, fastidious, like everything in its right place. That's not my strong point. Which maybe I was trying to, you know, cultivate some of that in myself by playing this character.
Yeah.
But you know, one thing to note about Chris's directing style, speaking of, you know, collaboration, is he really is. He rides a very effective balance between having thought everything through, but also being open to spontaneity on the day. And he understands that if you want that honest human feeling, which I think all of his movies have and what makes them so strong, you can't purely preconceive that. You have to kind of let it, like, catch the lightning in the bottle kind of thing. And he approaches that with it. He takes that approach with his actors as well as with Wally, his cinematographer. They're, you know, they have everything very planned out, but at the same time, he and Wally are constantly kind of improvising and being like, oh, what about this? What about that? And they don't even like to put marks on the ground because they like their actors. You know, Chris likes his actors to just feel free and real, and that's a lovely thing for an actor to kind of have my creativity invited into the process. And I think that's a big part of why his movies feel so honest. And what sets them apart from a lot of other grand scale, you know, action movies.
Does he do a lot of takes when you shoot with him? I think he's known for just sort of, I mean, Chris in shooting. And taking off of that, what's it like seeing the finished version? Because I guess you never know which version, you know, which take they're going to pull from you.
Right.
So what's it like seeing the finished version of the film and seeing it all together and seeing, you know, which parts of you have been pulled and finished?
Right. He doesn't do, I would not say he does a lot of takes, no. We did a lot of takes of, like, the stunt stuff, the action stuff, the more technically involved stuff. We did a lot of takes of that. But no, when it comes to a scene, he's pretty quick, and I really appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, that's always the grand mystery of being, you know, the actor in the equation is, you know, so much of a movie happens in the editing, and you just kind of gotta wait and see what they do, which is part of why I learned to edit, and like I do stuff on hit record is I love editing. I love the whole process, and also love the traditional acting role where, especially if you can trust the filmmaker, and I obviously trusted Mr. Nolan to take the good parts. But I must admit I do love being involved in that part also, and that's a big part of what makes Hit Record so fun for me.
Yeah. How do you balance just sort of all this going on? I think you, from my perspective at least, you seem more active than most actors. You've got all these roles that you're performing in, and you obviously did a lot of work on Inception. You got Hit Record, and you're just doing a lot. Mm-hmm. How do you sort of balance all of that in your life?
I don't sleep very much. Work all the time.
Yeah. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, but it's fun, man. I'm just so grateful for the opportunities that I have. And that's what I love to do. Yeah. So, thanks for noticing.
They told me that you were biking like crazy because
Premium Rush is gonna be great.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see it.
It's gonna be fun.
Cool. I think we have to wrap up.